What's up, guys? Welcome back. I want to simplify some things for everyone today because I feel like when you're in like the personal development or self-growth space on the internet, people try to make things really people are kind of like black and white. And what I mean is, like, people think that one day they're just going to stop all the bad habits and be perfect about all the, self-help routines and stuff. And maybe for some people it happens like that. For very few, I mean, David Goggins or something maybe. But if you're listening to this and you feel like you've started before and then you regress and you stopped, you need to realize that the execution is always a lot more messy than you think it's going to be. And so setting like a priority, like if you're a writer, the priority is obviously spending time writing. If you're an athlete, the priority is your training and competing. But like, don't put too much pressure on yourself to master every little thing. Like, there's a lot out there about, retention and transmutation, and I'm not even going to get into that because there's enough channels out there about that. But that is a journey for a lot of you that is very discouraging because you might keep, regressing, or I'm just gonna leave it like that. But another good example is meditating. You might not be able to stick to meditating every single day for years, but what you'll notice is if you can just commit one thing, whether it's physical or your art or whatever, that's like the priority, and you just stick to that more often than not, over the long term you will see fruits of that labor. And on this channel, I talk about how everything's energy and how you're always kind of conjuring up energy. And I put it like a video game where it's like points. There's a lot of ways I can describe it for you. But what the image I'm trying to create for you is that if you keep doing these, you can think of it as like ritual. When you work on your craft, you keep conjuring up more and more of this energy, and eventually, that will create compound interest and you'll have a lot of momentum, but you can't stop. Like the setbacks and stuff, you can't let that make you stop. And you're not going to be perfect, and the times where you kind of fall off and you get back on the horse, that's just as much part of the process as everything else. As the times when you're just disciplined for a long period of time, you did everything perfect. They're all equally valuable, but don't stop. And the reason I'm putting this out there is because I've come to realize that a lot of the times in my life that I felt like I was failing, I was actually doing better than I thought I was. Because now I look back at that time and I'm like, well, I could have really wasted that time a lot worse. And I'm kind of realizing now that I just had one thing that I never stopped. For me, that was like physically training. So before martial arts, like getting back in shape, and then like that happened in like 2019/early 2020. So before it was martial arts training, it was just exercising and staying in shape, getting in better and better shape. And I believe that since I never stopped, I unlocked like a new thing. And that's the next topic here, is the thing that you unlock. A lot of people on the internet talk about timelines. If you've never heard about this, you can find it. Literally just go on Google and type in, timeline shifting, and you'll probably find some stuff. Okay. Sorry, I feel dehydrated. Timelines are very interesting, and I'm not going to claim to know exactly. I don't say things as a matter of fact. Everything I'm saying is my opinion and my view, and I reiterate on the channel a lot that I think every little tiny thing matters. Not that you should beat yourself up, but there's an infinite amount of possibilities. So somewhere out there in this, let's just imagine, okay? Somewhere out there in a parallel timeline, you're fucking up way worse. Like you're doing so much worse. And then somewhere out there in the timeline, you're like the fully actualized version of yourself. And every decision you make is like putting you on a slightly different timeline. And if you can make time for your craft every day for long enough, I know I sound like a broken record, and I know it sounds like common sense, but common sense is not common practice, so really listen. Eventually you'll break into a new timeline, and then you keep it up and you break into a better one. You keep it up and you break into a better one. And eventually you won't feel like life is, kicking your head in, teaching you lessons. Eventually it becomes less about learning these hard lessons and more about creating. But you just have to build a foundation, and building the foundation is very painful. It hurts a lot. And you have to get through that to get to the higher timelines. But, when you're building your foundation, it's almost like a karmic little path you're on where you have to learn kind of what you want to be and what you don't want to be. And like the people you meet and the situations you find yourself in will help you realize like all those crappy situations are just really trying to force you to understand that you don't want to be that. And all those crappy people that you meet, they're making you understand that you don't want to be them. And some people are both. Like I've had mentors before that taught me a lot of good stuff when it came to like the thing that they were good at. And I also just observed a lot of behaviors and patterns in them that I was like, wow, I really don't want to take on that. And so when you're building your foundation, it just feels like life is just kicking your ass and you're just learning these lessons, but that's not forever. Okay, it will be if you keep stopping and if you keep falling off. You're going to fall off, like you're going to fall short, but if you stop, like if you give up, if you just lay down and give up, like that's like you're going back now, you're going to the lower timelines. You have to keep breaking the threshold and breaking to the higher timeline and keep going and do it again and do it again. And so eventually you get out of the realm of like learning lessons and you get into creation. And I feel like I just recently broke into that. But what people don't understand is like I went through a lot of humiliation and I went through a lot of just embarrassment, and kind of the lessons I was learning were very cruel to me. But I'm sure glad I didn't stop. So if you're out there and you're watching this and you feel that way, like you feel like you're kind of in this dark, like, let's be honest guys, sometimes when you go out and you look around, you feel like you're in this futuristic dystopia, like a dystopian nightmare. Sometimes it really feels like that. There's a lot of people with bad energy out in public. A lot of people will not be very nice to you, and then you try things and it doesn't work and you fail and you get, humiliated. But what's going on there is that you're going through the necessary tutorial. It's necessary. Just like if you're a fighter, unless you're like John Jones or Khabib or something, you probably start out like getting your ass beat a lot. And then you have fun later on when you're more skilled and you can flow. But at first you can't, like most people can't really flow when they first start sparring. It takes time. But there is a higher timeline out there for you where everything that you can't get now, you can have. Like, sometimes you need to accept, and it's really hard and it hurts, I know, but sometimes you need to accept that there's things that you desire that you just can't really have right now. But the sooner you just go ahead and face it and try to run through the problem, run through it, go through it, instead of like trying to evade it and run away from it because you're scared of it. The sooner you can just do that, you realize that those things that you're scared of or those things that you avoid are really not so bad. And that's with big things and small things. Like a lot of the things that scare you, if you would just turn around and face it, it would actually, it's kind of like a bully. Like a bully will harass you, but if you punch them in the face, they kind of A lot of bullies don't really have it in them to fight. They kind of just need to dominate. But if they're in a real fight, they kind of just run away. That's how a lot of the demons that are haunting you actually are. So just keep it up. Don't stop. There is a higher timeline out there for you. There's one for everybody. I believe part of the reason that I'm kind of like, I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not into organized religion. And that stems from this belief I have deep down that your relationship to God, your relationship with God is between you and God, and that the path to having a relationship with God is unique for every individual. And it's a path that you have to walk. And no one can really tell you if you're on the right path or not. That's you need to trust. You need to have a good enough relationship with yourself and your intuition and your gut to know. Because sometimes people are going to tell you that you're making a mistake, and it turns out to be the best thing you ever did for yourself. But maybe your intuition will tell you that you should listen to people's advice sometimes. So, there's balance. But your path is unique. Your higher timelines are somewhere out there for you, and no one else can access them. As soon as you step into your power and you step into your identity and your true identity and who you actually are, you're basically unstoppable. But you can't give up. That's the thing. You might have to crawl through some trenches and crawl through some mud, but you just have to keep going. Alright guys, that's it for today. This is Younger MMA. By the way, if you find this kind of stuff interesting or if it resonates with you, the playlist on this channel called Talks has all the videos where I talk about this, and I try not to repeat myself too much. So you should find something kind of fresh in all of them for the most part. Maybe I do repeat myself some. Also, I have, obviously, this is a fight channel, so the playlist fights has like real fight footage and stuff, and then the MMA kickboxing playlist is overall training, sparring tournaments, like all kinds of stuff. Hopefully it motivates you. And I'm also about to start vlogging preparation for this next fight. I have a big announcement coming. This next fight is going to be something special, but I don't want to say what it is right now. I'm at the end of camp right now, so I can't vlog the whole camp. It's almost over, but I'm going to start that tomorrow. And I'm going to keep the announcement a surprise, but you'll see what it is. It's going to be really interesting. I think y'all like it. And there's a chance that you might be hearing a lot about me very soon, actually. So go ahead and tap in now, because we're only in like season 1. If you try to get into a really good show, but it's already on season 5, it's like you got to catch up and stuff. So just go ahead and start watching me now, because eventually you won't be able to avoid me, unfortunately. Alright guys, that's Younger MMA. Peace.